निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय श्री प्रभुपाद की जय।
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Neena Mataji. Appreciate it. Okay, so we are doing the overview of Canto 5. We have completed the overview of 4 chapters in the last session, last Thursday. So today we try and cover as many chapters as possible. So please bear with me. Okay. So in the last chapter, we had seen that when there were no descendants in the lineage of Dhruva Maharaj, then Swayambhu Manu approached Priyavrata Maharaj, who actually was practicing meditation, leaving the kingdom. So on the order of Lord Brahma and Swayambhu Manu and Indra, he came back and he married, although he was in the renounced order of life, but on the order of his father Manu and grandfather Brahma and Indra, he returned, he came back and he got actually married. And then he was ruling the kingdom as a service to the Supreme Lord. So he was the one who had actually made these 7 divisions. He divided the earth, entire Bhumandala, into 7 divisions, 7 oceans and 7 islands. And then after that, he gave these 7 divisions to 7 of his sons, 7 sons. And the eldest son was Agnidra. Agnidra, and then he got the Jambudvipa, the center island. And he had 9 sons. He married to Purvachiti, celestial lady, and he begot 9 children. And so he gave this Jambudvipa to 9 of his sons, 9 sons. This Jambudvipa has 9 divisions, and so 9 sons have occupied or were given in charge of this Jambudvipa. And the eldest son of Agnidra was Nabi. Nabi performed sacrifice to beget a son. And the Lord appeared in his sacrifice, King Nabi's sacrificial arena, and his wife was Meru Devi. He was very pleased. He asked the reason why they were worshipping, and they wanted a son like the Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord said, there is no one like me, so that's why I will appear myself. Then he appeared himself as a Rushabhadev to King Nabi and Meru Devi. He was liked by the people, and so Rushabha means the best of the human beings. And he was becoming so famous that King Indra became envious of him. Um, so um, and he stopped a rainfall on the Bharatavarsha because he became envious of Rishabdev. Mm. Rishabdev, with his own mystic potency, created uh, the rain, and Indra begged pardon from Rishabdev and knowing his mistake, and he gave Jayanti to Rishabdev, and Rishabdev begot 100 sons in the womb of Jayanti. Out of this 100, 9 became Mahabhagavatas. Mahabhagavatas means exalted devotees, and 81 became the Brahmanas, and remaining 10 became the rulers of the Bharatavarsha. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so while touring Rishabdev with his 100 sons, he came to a place called Brahmavarta. There was a great assembly um, of Brahmanas. In that assembly, Rishabdev decided to speak and instruct his 100 sons. So that's what's been covered in the last session. Okay, so today we will try and cover some more chapters. Let me see what I can do. Not that one, but no. Right, I found it. Okay, so chapter 5 is entitled The Teachings of Lord Rishabdev to His Sons. So the primary teachings, there are a few important verses, and Prabhupada liked this chapter very much, and he gave number of discourses, a number of lectures, um, uh, you know, on the verses from this chapter. The teachings of Lord Rishabdev to his sons are considered to be amazing, very, very important for all of us, very valuable indeed. So the first point, Lord Rishabdev says that number one is this famous verse that human form of life is very special. It is distinguished from other forms of life. The sense gratification is available to the animals in any other species. One who has got the human form should not work like a dog and hog. Here he says it. And should not misuse this wonderful opportunity of human life, but rather should human life is meant for austerity. Human life is meant for acquiring spirituality. So primary focus is spirituality, the secondary focus is sense gratification or the maintenance of the body and other things, because nothing belongs to us is here. uh, Even this body does not belong. We have to give up this body one day. So there is a higher purpose for the human life. Only in the human form of life one can do this. So Rishabdev says this, Tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam, Tapo divyam. So uh, one should engage in penance and austerities or and to attain the divine position. Okay. So this is what he says. First point about the human life. Life is meant for austerity and inquiring about spirituality and endeavoring to advance in divinity. That is the goal of the human life. The goal of the human life is not meant for sense gratification. So more and more time should be dedicated for advancing and advancing in the divinity. How can one advance? How can one perform this devotion? So you have to associate with the saintly people. Second verse is also famous. One should associate with Mahatmas. First, he establishes the goal of human life, that is advancing in divinity. Second, he says, how can you advance? How can you practice? He says that one should associate with the Mahatmas, saintly people. And then he says that this is a famous verse. Ch4 is a famous verse. So one who is mad after sense gratification will not be able to advance. Nunam pramatta kurute karma. Why does one create all the sinful activities? Because one is mad after sense gratification. So then Rishabdev says, okay, associate with the devotees, Mahatmas. Then he says, one should accept a highly advanced devotee as a spiritual teacher. Okay. So I'm keeping it simple because this is highly philosophical. And then he also says one should not become a teacher. Text 18. One should not become one who cannot deliver his dependence from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, father, husband, mother, worshipable demigod. So that means, as a parent, as a mother, as a father, as a husband, we as a partner, we all have this responsibility. One should, this is a very heavy statement. One should not become even a parent if one is not able to deliver his dependents. So a heavy statement, heavy statement. But this is what he says, and he is instructing his children. Okay, so there is a responsibility on us. We should try and import the spirituality and educate our children and others. Prabhupada considered whole world is like his family members. At least, if you don't have that ability, but at least make your family members devotees. and if possible, make others devotees. That's one point that I wanted to highlight. And then after giving these instructions, Rishabdev um, instructed his 99 sons to accept Bharata as his um, like a spiritual teacher, mm, and follow Bharat Maharaj, the eldest of 100 sons. Bharat Maharaj was the eldest son, so they were all advised to follow in the footsteps of Bharat Maharaj. And then he made Bharata king. Then he accepted the position of an avaduta. Avaduta means just wander as a mendicant here and there. Okay, so renounced the kingdom after enthroning Bharata, and asked others to serve Bharata in ruling the kingdom. Mm. Um, so as an avaduta, he was just wandering, and it is said that his stool and urine was so much aromatic that the fragrance used to spread around 80 miles, something like from here to Birmingham. Uh, um, so this is how we were just roaming. Uh, so the teachings are about the important of human form of life. Then he talks about association with the saintly people, um, and not only says association with the saintly people, but he also says dissociate uh, with non-devotees. um, then he says that one must accept spiritual master, um, and then a parent, a teacher should instruct their dependents in the spiritual subject. Um, so these are some of the key points Rishabdev talks about in this chapter. So while um, wandering, um, so he came to he came to South India while traveling in South India, through the provinces of Karnataka, Konka, Venka, Kutaka. Anyway, so yeah, while he was traveling in South India, suddenly there was a forest fire. So Lord Rishabdev decided to enter into that forest fire. Um, and so he accepted a behavior of an avaduta. Avaduta means they don't follow the normal scriptural, the rules that are given in the scriptures. They are beyond the, you know, uh, rules of scriptures. Hmm? Um, there was a king called King Harhat. So he tried to imitate Lord Rishabdev's behavior, and um, and he created Jainism. Jainism is yeah, is like perverted understanding of Lord Rishabdev. Hmm? Okay, so that's how Rishabdev decided to leave this world. Um, After Rishabdev leaves, then we have the story of his eldest son, Bharat Maharaj. Hmm? Okay, so with Bharat Maharaj, I've got the one PowerPoint presentation. We will try and go through it. So I will ask, definitely, I will ask some devotees to read. Okay. So raise your hand if you're in a position to read, then I can ask accordingly. Okay, Shama Shriji Mataji, please go ahead and read here.
Okay, thank you. Once the world was ruled by a very wise and experienced king named Maharaja Bharat. After ruling the world for many long years, being aware of the ultimate goal of life, he renounced everything that is dear to one's heart, his queen, family, and his vast empire, and went to a place called Pulhashram in the foothills of the Himalayas for pursuing his spiritual career. There he lived alone in the forest along the bank of the Gandki River.
Yeah. So Maharaj Bharat, he had 5 children and he ruled the kingdom, um, for up until whatever 50 years or so, and then he decided to renounce um, after dividing the kingdom between 5 sons. So he left for Pulahashram. This was the system in every king you see, whether you king, every king, whether it is Priyavrata Maharaj or Dhruva Maharaj, any king you see, all saintly kings, they have this system. They don't work until they die. So there is they follow the Varnashrama dharma. At a certain times, yes, they decide, okay, 50 years or 55 years, whatever, I work, but after that I fully dedicate for Krishna, like that. So he went to Pula Ashram in the foothills of Himalayas for practicing spiritual career at the bank of river Gandaki. Please carry on, Mataji.
Morning, Bharat worshipped the Supreme Lord by chanting the hymns given in the Rig Veda. Later in the day, he collected various fruits and roots, and as recommended in the Vedic scriptures, he offered these simple edibles to Lord Krishna, and then he took them as his meals. By his constant meditation upon the personality of Godhead, Bharat began to experience symptoms of spiritual ecstasy.
Yeah. So every day he was chanting Gayatri mantra and worshipping mantra, by uttering the mantras given in Rig Veda. And later in the day, used to collect fruits, roots, and offer to the Lord, then accept. uh. So he was also taking bath 3 times in River Gandaki. And in due course, he began to experience ecstatic symptoms. His body was trembling, and he just thinking of the Lord. He was, uh, you would shed tears like anything. So began to demonstrate ecstatic symptoms. So this is called the stage of bhava, very advanced stage in the devotion. Please carry on, Mataji. Not that one, this one.
Bharat gives shelter to a deer. One day, while Bharat was meditating near the bank of the river, a doe came there to drink water. While she drank water with fearful eyes, a lion nearby in the forest roared loudly. As the pregnant doe fled in fear and jumped across the river, a baby deer fell from her womb into the swiftly flowing waters. The mother deer, trembling in fright, weakened and pained by the miscarriage, entered a cave where she soon died.
Yeah. So he was very compassionate to the baby deer because it has just lost its mother. So that's why, being compassionate, so he brought that deer uh, to his hermitage. Carry on, Mataji,
As
please.
the sage Bharat observed the baby deer floating helplessly down the river, he felt great compassion. Bharat lifted the animal from the water and, knowing it to be motherless, brought it to his ashram. Because Bharat was self realized, he saw all living beings with equal vision. He fed the deer with fresh green grass daily and tried to make it comfortable.
Yeah, this was okay. Seeing all the living entities, the equal vision is okay. That's okay. But he went a little too far, I think. Yes, Mataji, please go on.
Soon, however, he began to develop great attachment for the deer. He laid down with it, walked with it, sorry, bathed with it, and even ate with it. When he wanted to enter the forest to collect fruits, flowers, and roots, he would take the deer with him, fearing that if he left it behind, it would be killed by dogs, jackals, or tigers. Bharat took great pleasure seeing the deer leap and frolic in the forest like a child. Sometimes he would carry the deer on his shoulder. When he slept, the deer would rest upon his chest and would sometimes even kiss it. Thus his heart became bound by affection for the deer.
Yeah, so now you can see he developed a deep attachment to the deer. And here in this picture, you can see while conducting, fire sacrifice, he was keeping an eye on deer. Now and then, he used to um, deviate himself, and this shows a deep attachment to the deer. Padmavati, can you read next few?
Hare Krishna. Yes, please,
1 second.
Prabhuji.
Let me check. Not that. Yeah.
Being attached to raising the deer, Bharata gradually became neglectful of his meditation upon the Supreme Lord. He thus became distracted from the path of self realization, which is the actual goal of human life. The Vedas remind us that the human form is obtained only after the soul undergoes millions of births in lower species of life.
So he became neglectful of his uh, spiritual life. So yeah, ideally, if you were in the association of devotees, someone would have said, Prabhu, it's okay, you brought the deer, but you are, crossing your limits or whatever. You're overdoing it. Yes, please.
Human life is meant for controlling our mind and senses, engaging them in service to the Supreme Lord to purify our heart and go back to Godhead. Animals gratify their senses simply eating, sleeping, mating, and fighting and defending for food and sex. Human body is like a Mercedes Benz meant to ply in the smooth road of self-realization. Animal body is like tractor meant for sense gratification and hard labor. Thus, the human being is given all facilities for a comfortable life by the laws of nature because the human form of life is more important and valuable than animal life. Why is a judge given 10 times salary as a clerk who works hard putting rubber stamps in a court? The answer is that a judge has to discharge duties of a higher nature. Similarly, the duties human beings have to perform are higher than those of animals. But if a human spends his entire life gratifying his senses like animals, he is called the killer of the soul.
Thank you.
However, even though Bharata was aware of these considerations, he thought to himself, because this deer has taken shelter of me, how can I neglect it? Even though it is disturbing my spiritual life, I cannot ignore it. To neglect a helpless person who has taken shelter of me would be a great fault. Bharata searches anxiously for the lost deer. One day, as Bharata was meditating, he began, as usual, to think of the deer instead of the Lord. Breaking his concentration, he glanced around to see where the deer was, and when he could not discover it, his mind became agitated, like that of a miser who has lost his money. He got up and searched the area around his ashrama, but the deer was not to be found anywhere. Bharata thought, when will my deer return? Is it safe from the tigers and other animals? When shall I again see it wandering in my garden, eating the soft green grass? The deer did not return till evening. Bharata became overwhelmed with anxiety. Has my deer been eaten by a wolf or a dog or attacked by wild boars or a tiger? The sun is setting now, and the poor animal who has trusted me. He remembered how the deer would play with him. He remembered how he would sometimes push the deer away from him, pretending to be annoyed with it for disturbing his worship and meditation, and how it would then immediately become fearful and sit down motionless a short distance away. My deer is exactly like a little prince. Oh, when will he return again? When will he again pacify my wounded heart? Bharata searches anxiously for the lost deer. Unable to restrain himself, Bharata set out after the deer, following its tiny hoof prints in the moonlight. In his madness, he began to talk to himself. This creature was so dear to me that I feel as though I have lost my own son. Due to the burning fever of separation, I feel as if I were in the middle of a blazing forest fire. My heart is now blazing with distress. While frantically searching for the lost deer along the dangerous forest paths, Bharata suddenly fell and was fatally injured. Lying there on the verge of death, he saw that his deer had suddenly appeared and was sitting at his side, watching over him just like a loving son. Thus, at the moment of death, the king's mind was completely on the deer. In the Bhagavad Gita 8.6, we learn whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail.
So remembering the dear.
Dear, dear, helpless deer looking for shelter, caring deer, looking at King Bharata innocently and drawing affection, enchanting running of deer, entertaining play of deer.
Okay, one second. Not that.
King Bharata becomes a deer. In his next life, Bharata got the body of a deer. Most living entities are not able to remember their past lives, but because of the spiritual progress the king has made in his previous life, by Lord's mercy, he could, even though in the body of a deer, understand the cause of his taking birth in that body, as said in Gita verse 6.44, such a body, no one is to blame but myself.
Thank you. So we have discussed this in detail in the past. Here we can see that even though he was at the stage of, he was at advanced stage of in his devotion, um, Bharat Maharaj got overly attached to this deer, and he, because of that, he neglected his spiritual life. He actually came to the forest by renouncing all these worldly matters. He was a king. And he had a beautiful wife, wonderful kingdom, so many servants, all opulences he was surrounded by. The reason he left all of them and went to the forest. Just 1 second, I'm getting a little echo from downstairs. Bhakti or Lalita Preeti, can you put your volume down a little bit? Thank you. So he went to the forest to actually advance in the spiritual life. It is said that he left his kingdom and all his opulences like one gives up one's own stool. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, how much attachment you have, one has to one stool. Yeah? No attachment at all. So that kind of detachment he had towards his kingdom and all his opulences. Yeah? So for us, the point here that we should be in the association. We say if you are attending this Thursday Sangha, if you don't, but if you are in in a regular basis, if you are in connection with the devotees and group of devotees are coming together and attending it, they will ask. If you don't come some days, they would ask. And devotees are so merciful that they are reminding you also. You might be busy doing so many other things. Because just imagine, please think about this, a very practical point. If someone doesn't remind you, even though you may be aware that there is a Sangha at 7 o'clock on Thursday, but sometimes while doing some other work, we just get carried away. We forget to attend. Because we are in the association of devotees, someone is reminding us. So Prabhupada, that's why Prabhupada said that, if you try and practice devotion on your own, you might, you may go to hell. So Prabhupada always advised us that we should associate with the devotees. We should have sanghas. If you are not able to physically associate, we should have sanghas. We should have, we should at least speak to few devotees on a regular basis. And, then talk about our spiritual progress. I'm doing this. What are you doing it? Oh, I learned this. What have you learned it? Like this, there should be something like that. At least, when we are not able to do, when we are being distracted, that association will help us. That's number one. Number two, Prabhupada says that, in these purports, one has to be very, very careful if one has pets. And number three, is it fair that he has to become a deer? He was so advanced in his spiritual life. Why didn't Krishna award liberation? Is it fair that he had to take body of a deer? He was, he had done what he could. Then why did Krishna do this to him? What is the answer? I hope everyone is awake.
It is, Prabhu, whatever you'll remember at the time of death, that's what you will become. That's stated in Bhagavad Gita. So that's being fulfilled.
But he can overrule that. He can overrule it. He is Krishna, if he likes, he can overrule it.
But Prabhuji remembered all his previous...
1 second. Yeah, go on. So many devotees, yeah.
He remembered everything about his past, which was very good benediction, really, that in the body of a deer, he remembered everything of his past life, all his prayers and everything.
Ah, okay. That's one point. Yes. And then, Meena Mataji?
And the Krishna.
Yeah,
Meena
Prabhuji,
Mataji?
yes. So also for, for the future, for everyone, it's a lesson.
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay, it's a lesson. It's a lesson. Thank you, Padma Mataji.
That's what I wanted to say as well. Krishna
Yeah.
was trying to teach us a lesson through Bharat
Yeah.
Maharaj.
See, the thing is, we are thinking it's punishment, but actually, if you analyze it, it may appear punishment, but the real punishment is when we forget Krishna. I may have a body of demigod, I may take birth in the heavenly planet or Brahmaloka, but I forget Krishna. That is the biggest punishment. But even if I enter into a body of a lower species, like, into a body of an elephant, into body of a deer, like, but if I have the remembrance of the Lord, that is great. So basically, he was even in the body of deer, his spirituality is devotion was protected. Body may not be protected, Krishna says in the Gita, but the devotion is protected. So in the body of deer, he advanced even more rapidly. Yes, I'll hear from Manjula Mataji, Manjurada.
Prabhu, will that apply to everybody then? What happened to Bharat Maharaj? For any of the devotees? I mean to say, if somebody devotee is there and
Yes, it appears. Yes.
he starts loving his dog, so he will
Yeah.
have the remembrance in the body then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. Devotion is never lost. Sometimes people question when we are, explaining this. People question, oh, why can't, why didn't he take birth as a human? It's whether human or animal. The devotion is most important. Okay. So those are some of the points. Let's make further move. Who would like to read now? Let's see. Satish Prabhu, Jai Ho.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
One second. Yeah, go on.
Okay. He began to lament, "What a fool I was. I have fallen from the path of self-realization. I gave up my family and kingdom and went to a solitary, holy place in the forest to meditate, where I always contemplated on the Lord of the universe. But due to my foolishness, I let my mind become attached to, of all things, a deer. Now I have justly received such a body. No one is to blame but myself."
Yeah, when a devotee does small mistake, he doesn't blame. Yeah, in temple we see they make mistake, they blame others. We should learn from Bharat Maharaj. Yeah, accept the truth. Carry on, Prabhu.
But even as a deer, Bharata, having learnt a valuable lesson, was able to continue his progress in self realization. He became detached from all material desires. He no longer cared for the succulent green grasses, nor did he give a thought to how long his antlers would grow. He returned to Pulahashrama, the very place where he had practiced meditation in his previous life. But this time he was careful never to forget the Supreme Lord. Staying near the hermitages of the great sages and avoiding all contact with materialists, he lived very simply, eating only dry leaves.
Thank you. So, he took birth elsewhere, far distance from Pula Ashrama, but he came back to the same place. But this time, he was living very close to the hermitages of sages. So when they were discussing Krishna Katha, you would hear. So association is important. Satish Prabhu, let's move on then.
Yeah, sure. But even as a deer,
No.
Bharata.
Next one. This one. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. When the time of death came and Bharata was leaving the body of the deer, he loudly uttered a prayer to Supreme Lord, expressing his hope to perpetually engage in his transcendental loving service.
Yeah, this is what a devotee, this is an important prayer. This is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Here, there is an important point. Can somebody point out what is an important point?
Remembering Lord at the time of death.
That's one thing. That is secondary in my view. But there is
The
a primary.
The animal body, he was in an animal body and he remembered the Lord.
That's good. But there's another important point. What is he asking for?
Perpetually
Perpetually engage in the transcendental loving service. This is what a devotee asks. Devotee doesn't ask for anything else. There are 5 types of liberation. And Kapil Dev says that my devotee will not accept any type of liberation if there is no service. So this was his prayer. So this time, yes, of course, he remembered the Lord without fail. Last time he had to remember deer. Once bitten, twice shy. But the lesson is, however times, yeah, we have to learn lessons. This is what making mistake is not a problem, but we should not repeat that. Ideally, not repeat, repent. For mistake, we have to repent and not repeat. But what we do, we repeat and not repent. And for our mistakes, we blame others. This is not a character of a devotee. Even Parikshit Maharaj, what did he do? When he went to the forest, he was extremely thirsty by the will of the Lord that day. So he took dead snake and he put it around the neck of Shamik Muni, who was in deep meditation. And the Muni was not bothered at all. When he came up to his external senses, he just took the snake, put it aside, he knew that it was Parikshit Maharaj, but he did not, much acted upon it. But his son, Shrungi, cursed Maharaj Parikshit. And if you read those chapters, first canto, 19th chapter, 18th and 19th, you would see how Parikshit Maharaj repented. Let there be, while he was going home, before even hearing the curse itself, he was telling, I must undergo some punishment. There should be some calamity. This is devotee. This is devotee, character of a devotee. Satish Prabhu.
Just a question, Prabhuji. So we always been taught that human life is the only life where you have the opportunity to pray and be back to the Godhead. But this time, Bharat Maharaj managed to achieve the same from an animal life, from a deer life. So it should be seen as an exception, or is there animals around us who are going through similar experience?
These are few exceptions. We have elephant Gajendra also. Generally, it happens through the human life. But, say, for example, Gajendra in the past life, who was he? He was King Indradumna. He was a great devotee of the Lord. Some or other, he was cursed to be an animal. And he went back from the elephant body. So we should not think that, okay, maybe not from the not from the human form. I misuse this human form. Let's become an animal, and from the animal platform we go. No, when the mistakes happen, these are certain exceptional cases, very exceptional cases. If you see that Rishabh Dev was saying that the human form of the life is most important. So there are exceptional cases where one is not able to fulfill, and somehow or other, you know, then they are put into this lower species of life. But that is a a rare occasion. These are very few exceptional occasions. But the human form of the life is the most important. And if the devotees show their mercy on to these lower beings, then it is also possible for them. The point is, better we use it, better we use the human form of life. Because he was a devotee, you can see here that every animal is not going through this same thing, right? And animal means, actually, Satish Prabhu, it's consciousness, it's not the body. I wouldn't call Bharat Maharaj as
as
a
an
deer, as a deer. People are in human body with animal consciousness,
agree.
right?
Yeah, sure.
Manjula Mataji. You're muted, Manjula Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu, I wanted to ask for those, like he said there, that I was asking, he wants service eternally. Now, for those who are very fortunate, who can do lots of service, like they can preach, they can build temples, they're doing so much. It's good. But for those who are doing less or very little, I mean, how can we ask that we would like to do service for you? Because service is, I know it's less or more, but it is service. But still, it doesn't seem as if one is doing enough, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, how can we ask that we do your service? In what way? I don't know.
Okay, so if I understand your question correctly, you're saying that, okay, those who are doing less service, how can they ask the Lord to engage me to engage them, perpetually in the spiritual life? Is that your point? Is that your question?
Yes, in any life, so that I can continue
Yeah.
with your service. So, how can we relate it to those who are doing very little or
Yeah. Little or big depends on our consciousness. You know the story of Hanuman and that what is that, spider, not spider, actually,
Udta.
squirrel. So squirrel, we should a squirrel was doing service to its capacity, and Hanuman was offering service to his capacity. Right. In Lord Ram's view, they both are rendering equal level of service, and Lord Ram accepted equally. And if you have ability but not rendering service, this service doesn't mean physical. This can be in various means. Okay. Attending this sangha is also service, say, for example. So, but we should try, and by hearing this, we should develop desire to serve. That is my point. What I'm trying to say, when we hear this, that we may not, because we are not, are we pure devotees now? No. By reading these, we develop desire. Actually, whoa, this is how a pure devotee behaves. Maybe in one lifetime, maybe after some lifetimes, I will also develop that. That is the mode.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's read a little more. It's So who would like to read next?
Shall I read, Prabhuji? No one.
Please, please, please.
The life of Jada Bharat. In his next life, King Bharat took birth in the family of a pure saintly Brahman, a priest, and was known as Jada Bharat. By the Lord's mercy, he could again remember his past lives. As he grew up, Jada Bharat became very much afraid of his friends and relatives because they were very materialistic and not at all interested in making spiritual progress. Therefore, although he was very intelligent, he behaved just like a madman. He pretended to be dull, blind, and deaf so that mundane people would not try to talk to him. But within himself, he was always thinking of the Lord and remembering his glories, which alone can save one from repeated birth and death.
Yeah, so once bitten, twice shy. This time he's very careful. He's intentionally acting as if he were a fool. But internally, he was a great devotee, always thinking of the Lord because he had the memory of past 2 lives. He had the memory. Yeah. Please go on.
Jada Bharat's father was full of affection for his son, and in his heart he hoped that Jada Bharat would someday become a learned scholar. Therefore, he tried to teach him the intricacies of Vedic knowledge. But Jada Bharat purposely behaved like a fool so that his father would abandon his attempts to instruct him. If his father told him to do something, he would do exactly the opposite.
Yeah, please don't try to imitate Jada Bharat in the temple. Please follow.
Jada Bharat's inner spiritual advancement unknown to people. Jada Bharat's 9 stepbrothers considered him dull and brainless. They could not understand Jada Bharat's inner spiritual advancement. They made him work like a slave in the fields, and his only wages were the small burnt grains. Each day he was insulted and neglected by ordinary people who considered him to be nothing more than a useless fool. But Jada Bharat never protested the mistreatment, or he was completely liberated from the bodily concept of life. Whatever food came his way, he would accept it and eat it, whether it was plenty or little, palatable or unpalatable. His body was as strong as a bull's. He was like a valuable gem covered by dirt.
Yeah, they used him as a scarecrow in the field. And Jada Bharat was fully depending on the Lord. Here you can see. Please carry on, Mataji.
Thank you. Once a leader of a band of dacoits went to the temple of the goddess Bhadrakali to offer in sacrifice a dull, unintelligent human being resembling an animal. Such sacrifices are nowhere mentioned in the Vedas and were concocted by the robbers for the purpose of gaining material wealth. The plan was foiled, however, when the man who was to have been sacrificed escaped. So the chief robber sent his men out to find him. Searching through fields and forests in the darkness of night, the robbers came to a rice field and saw Jada Bharat, who was sitting on high ground, guarding the field against the attacks of wild bulls.
Yeah, this these dacoits, they wanted to sacrifice a human for Bhadrakali, gaining the material wealth. And so they wanted, they're looking for a dull person, a dull, unintelligent animal, human being resembling an animal. So they found this Jada Bharat and they thought, yes, this is the right person.
The robbers thought Jada Bharat would be a perfect sacrifice. They bound him with strong ropes and brought him to the temple of goddess Kali. Due to his complete faith in the protection of the Supreme Lord, Jada Bharat did not protest. His consciousness was, "My Lord, I am your eternal servant, and if you like, you can kill me, or if you like, you can protect me. In any case, I am fully surrendered unto you."
This is the highest level of surrender.
Jada Bharat saved from the robbers. The robbers bathed Jada Bharat, dressed him in new silk garments, and decorated him with ornaments and garlands. They fed him a sumptuous last meal and brought him before the goddess. Then one of the thieves, acting as a chief priest, raised a razor-sharp sword to slit Jada Bharat's throat, so they could offer his warm blood as liquor to Kali. But the goddess could not bear this. Suddenly, the form of the deity burst open and the goddess herself appeared. Leaping violently from the altar, she quickly decapitated all the thieves with the very sword with which they had intended to kill Jada Bharat.
So here we can see that by becoming devotee of Lord Krishna, so you will be loved by other demigods and other goddesses as well. Sometimes people ask, if I worship Krishna, will Ganesh become angry? Will Lord Shiva become angry? Lord Brahma, whether he become angry? Don't worry. So here from this example, you can see everybody loves a Vaishnava. Everybody is a Vaishnava. Vaishnava is Lord Shiva is also called Vaishnava. Brahma we know is a Vaishnava. Everybody is trying to be Vaishnava. All these demigods, they worship the Supreme Lord. So he was saved. Maybe. So we'll stop there. I actually wanted to cover more chapters, but at the same time, I do not want to rush also. I will stop there. And then, how Jada Bharat then meets Rahugana, and that discussion between Rahugana and Jada Bharat we will see in the next week chapter summary. But I think it's better we stop here. So thank you very much. If you have any further comments or questions, let us know. But otherwise, we will end the session here. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranam. Excellent slides as well. And
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.